Welcome to the e-commerce growth show, brought to you by Segmentify.
So hello everyone, this is Carlos again for another episode of the e-commerce growth show. I'm with Evolve, the e-commerce growth show brought to you by Segmentify, and this is the e-commerce growth show Scandinavia. Today I have the honor to be interviewing Mikkel Rosendahl, and it's been quite an endeavor to do this interview. Quite a journey in terms of some technical challenges. But Mikkel, I'm really excited about talking to you. We've had some interesting conversations, about the future of commerce, what you're seeing in terms of technology, what's going on in the market, and what you see with your clients. But before we get started, so you're with a very respected digital commerce and consulting agency from Denmark called Vertica. So perhaps you could start, introducing yourself. How did you come about e-commerce, and how did you land in the digital commerce world? And
yes, so I started within the digital commerce space about 15 years ago, I think, and I've been with Vertica for almost all of that time. So I started as a backend developer for around maybe 2 years or something, before I found out that the real interest for me was more high level. So it was more within the architectural part. It was more based on the platforms and the way we actually do things. So I moved away from actually developing, moving into the structuring, the specification of the technical foundation. And I did that for around maybe, 3 or 4 years. And then I found out that a lot of our customers, what they actually wanted was that they wanted to have some kind of more strategic advice based on how should they actually, achieve their digital ambitions. How should they create the right technical foundation in order to do this? And what we also saw at that time, and what we still see, is that most of our clients, or at least most of the potential clients also that we meet, they actually don't have the full picture of the technological investments that they've made, and maybe they don't utilize them in the most optimal way. So what I do now is that I work as a strategic advisor for most or some of our customers, some of the large enterprise customers that we have within both the B2B and the B2C space. And basically what I do is that, so we look at our customers' digital ambitions. That might be, they want to be able to improve their digital innovation. They want to be able to create multiple customer journeys or customer experiences. They want to be able to consolidate across. And what I do is that I help create a lasting technical foundation and a long-term plan or roadmap for doing that. And that is part of the external role that I have. So actually what I do, so what we call it here is that we call it technical strategy. But what I just talked about was the external part. So that is what is the customer facing part from a Vertica perspective. But there's also an internal role. So because I look that much into the different, the market and the different platforms that is coming up, and the different ways of utilizing that within the digital commerce space, I also have an internal role here at Vertica. So what I do is that I actually take what we see in the market, the different trends, and I try to adjust the delivery that we have, and try to nudge the approach that we have for developing, and actually just ensuring that we have here at Vertica, we create modern e-commerce solutions. So that is part of the internal role that I have. We just talk a little bit about Vertica. So Vertica, I don't know how many people out there actually know about us, because we don't do that much within marketing or sales. We actually focus a lot on large enterprise customers, and we focus a lot on long-lasting relationships. So, for instance, Vertica was born about 20 years ago, and our first customer was Bolia.com at that time, and we still have them as one of our customers. So we invest a lot in existing customers and just growing that partnership with them. And so Vertica, if we just look at us as a company, we focus 100% on digital commerce. So we do, like me, we do strategic advisory for some of our customers, both on the more business side, but also within the space between technology and business. And then we have business development as well. But most of the colleagues that I have, they work with actually implementing solutions for our customers. So they work with backend development, they work with front-end development, they work with, so we also have UX as well. And we also focus on PIM, so product information management implementations as well. But all that we do, that is focused around e-commerce and the digital commerce space. And for us, and then particularly for me at least, that's an area that's evolving extremely quickly. So what I try to focus on is that I try to focus on everything, if you can say, that's above the ERP system. So that is basically every system that's involved in supporting the modern digital commerce foundation and the commerce solutions that we have. Back to Vertica. So Vertica, like you said, we have our HQ in Aarhus. We have around 110 employees here, and then we have a smaller office in Copenhagen as well. I think there's around 10-15 people there.
Cool.
So that's a little bit about me and a little bit about Vertica.
Really nice. Thanks for sharing. I think what I'd like to ask you then is, since you're in the enterprise world, working a lot of some large customers, and I know quite a few of them, and at least I heard. I mean, they're very respected Danish or Danish / global brands. What is it that you're seeing that they're looking at the moment, or the real challenges when it comes to digital commerce and like what they want to implement? We're going to talk about as I shared with you, like there's a lot of acronyms for maybe the same stuff. Maybe you can correct me, but headless or composable or whatnot, and I think companies are looking at that as well with confusion, like myself, and probably one of your roles is to educate them as well, I believe, right? To kind of simplify what's in the market. Sometimes you hear a lot of stuff, so perhaps you can tell us what is it that your customers are looking at, and how you're actually helping them as of now achieve the 5-year goal, 10-year goal, and
Sure. So so I think, like you said, there's a lot of hype around composability, but let's get back to that later. So what they're actually looking at right now, so the way that we and I approach it is that we want to know our customers' digital ambitions. We want to know, so what are their current pains, and what are their what is it that they're trying to achieve. And so a lot of the customers that we have, they come from maybe an older platform or an older setup, and they want to be able to be more agile. They want to be able to, they're tired of rewriting their entire application, and they want to have some way of achieving that reusability and scalability that they don't currently have. So actually we have for the past year and a half, we've been looking a lot into composable commerce and all the aspects around that. So that includes headless as well. So I know this, so what is headless actually, right? Because that's something that at least here we've been talking about and implemented for several years now. But that's in context of one single customer experience. Maybe there's an app, maybe it's just a website, but it's not that multi-experience platform that we've been looking into. So that's a different aspect of the headless part. Now we're going to talk composable. But at least for us, the composable architecture and composable commerce, that approach and the concept there, that is the enabler for many of those digital ambitions and many of the answers for those pains that our customers have around their current setup. So we have, I think, maybe 3-4 customers right now looking into composable commerce. So that is definitely something that we're working with right now. Then we have, and that's maybe been, we've been talking about it, we've been implementing solutions for some of our B2B customers around direct to consumer. So that is definitely something that a lot of our clients at least have been looking into as well. And I think, so customer data platforms and the hype around that one as well, that is also something that, that our customers are looking into. And that is something that we are also focusing at here at Vertica, and we have been for the past year and a half as well. Because to us, so traditionally a customer data platform, that's centered around MarTech and all the marketing aspects of the digital space. But to us here at Vertica, at least, that's going to be one of the core components or key components for actually succeeding with a modern e-commerce foundation. So if you want to create a personalized experience, if you want to be able to, optimize your different spends, you want to be able to work actively with the different audiences and segments that you have, we see the CDP or customer data platform as a core component for the future. And that's something that we've been looking into as well, doing vendor selections and also implemented the CDP here as well. So I think if I should just look at what we are looking into for our larger customers, these 3 would be the ones, right? So it would be composable architecture or composable commerce. That's definitely top of the list. Then we have the D2C or direct to consumer setup. And then of course the customer data platform as well, and personalization in total.
Really nice. Mikkel, perhaps you can share, like, when you speak about, because personalization makes total sense. I mean, there's even Segmentify, CDPs. We had I joined a call. It was very interesting. What they were talking with this customer in Brazil, it's a really large, brand. They do like white goods. They do everything. They have a marketplace, and their concern was, how can we integrate everything with because they have the omni experience. So they wanted to integrate everything that they have in the physical shops with the online shop, the app, the marketplace, and have it centered in their, customer data platform, because, that's where they centralize everything. And there's the sort of GDPR and then all of those concerns, right, in terms of security, but also how do you integrate that? That was quite an interesting discussion that I joined. But when you talk about D2C, what exactly your customers are looking like? When we go direct to consumer, is it Amazon? Is it how they have to prepare in terms of logistics? Can you just get a bit more granular there?
Sure. So for the customers that we have that have been looking into D2C, that is more creating a separate channel, a sales channel for the end consumers. So, maybe even having a separate assortment, or at least a part of the assortment for the D2C customers or end consumers, that would be a separate part of the assortment. So they actually created something that's directed at the end consumer as well. And I think, so if we're just going to talk about, so what are the challenges for our customers there when going D2C? And I think that is actually the impact that D2C has across the value chain within a company, right? So that is both the inventory part, that's the sales and marketing, what do you actually have to do in order to get your products across, but also the logistics part. So there's a lot of different disciplines surrounding D2C and selling to end consumers that has to be in place in order to succeed there. And I think, so we're just going to talk about what is the, what are the where's the huge workload, or, where's the impact on an organization there. I think there's just different parts of the value chain that you have to look into. And at least what we see is also that you can't underestimate the marketing effort as well. So maybe your brand is known for the business consumers, right? But for the end consumers, you might not be a known brand. And that is definitely a focus area as well.
That's a whole other discussion. I find it super interesting. but let's just carry on with the. We will definitely have I'll invite you for a panel just about that. But yeah, I think when it comes to, we also discussed this, Mikkel, when it comes to composable architecture, is this for everyone, or is that for every company out there, they should be concerned that, or not concerned, but they should be looking at composable architecture? Do you see that this is the future? Can you comment a little bit about, how do you see this? I don't even know if it's a trend anymore. I think it's getting really consolidated with players like Commerce Tools, as we spoke about, VTEX, and
Yes.
that offer everything in a platform like marketplace APIs, right? How do you see that?
So is composable architecture, is that for everyone, or anyone, everyone? So I think we see smaller players actually also implementing composable architecture, but the way that it is right now, I would say that the complexity that you have in composable commerce and composable architecture, I think that means that this actually requires some effort. So there are some new disciplines to master, in regards to technical disciplines as well, but of course organizational as well. The concept of composability. So if we're just going to talk about that, so actually being able to reuse your functionality in order to create, serve multiple customer experiences. If you see composability as, the catalyst for actually unifying your organizational structure, because that's actually something that is within, for us at least, within the composable commerce space as well. So you have a lot of different business capabilities, and you want to be able to unify them within your technical platform as well. This means that this goes beyond the commerce part and the commerce organizational part as well. So actually seeing composability as a catalyst for creating a more unified organizational structure, but also looking at the reusability part, I think that is for everyone. But the composable architecture and the complexity there, I mean, so we have some of our customers who want to go, should we look at composability? Should we look at composable architecture? And for them, if they have, they have a current solution and they don't have the actual business requirement or the ambition to maybe serve multiple customer journeys or customer experiences, then we wouldn't recommend going that direction. At least not until you have those ambitions, you want to go that route, then we don't see that as a requirement. But I think that is something that people actually creating a new solution, but also maybe looking into, they have ambitions in regards to multiple customer experiences. They should definitely look into composable architecture.
All right, and perhaps you want to, if you can, like share a few interesting business cases and concrete stuff in terms of not only composability, but let's talk about, okay, you talk about this customer ambitions, right? And so a customer might have an ambition of creating a marketplace and having an app, and then you say, okay, but what do we have in-house, and how do you sort of, because you have to say, okay, this is your ambition, we have to reverse, not maybe reverse engineer, and then you have to break that down into smaller goals. And can you tell us a little, maybe a case or two of customers that you know top of mind that are quite interesting happen?
Yeah, definitely. So we actually have had some customers who, what we typically see also, so if it was the perfect world, we could have, really, measurable KPIs, digital ambitions. What are the results that you want to have based on this? But what we actually see as the digital ambitions that we have, and if we just take a case that we had, so what they were looking into is that they wanted to be able to consolidate. They had different business areas. They wanted to be able to consolidate these business areas, or at least have the flexibility to do so. So their current setup, they have, a shop for one business area and a shop for another, and completely different tech stacks. So how do they consolidate this, and how do they actually achieve that digital flexibility or innovation flexibility that you need in order to be able to just meet and also exceed, future customer expectations for digital experiences as well. So they looked into, so they saw that they needed to do something with their technical platform in order to support this, in order to be agile, in order to be able to just, if they wanted to add a more specific shop, or just, a channel for just selling one single product, they wanted to be able to be, to have that, be able to be created fast. And, with the current setup that they have with a monolith underneath each solution, the time to market, that was essential there. So they had some requirements in regards to time to market as well. But I think, so instead of just going directly into that case, because I think the customers that we have actually going the composable direction, I think what's, a common denominator for each of these is that they, and that's probably also why the ambitions is, not that measurable. I think that's because they see that they need to be able to build for what's next, right? So they need to be able to just, have fast time to market on stuff and features and channels and experiences they don't know what is yet. So on the other case, that was also part of their, what they had as an ambition in a more high level setup. And what we did there is that we actually just, how do we actually create a long-term technical setup for them, where so when we talk about technical strategy, we also talk about maximizing the technological investments that our customers have done, right? So when you have multiple tech stacks, you have capabilities overlapping between the different platforms that you have, the expense that you have there, that is suboptimal, right? So we need to be able to create a commerce setup where you actually utilize that and consolidate that across. So that was part of the vision that we created, but also a high-level roadmap of how do we actually execute this. So when we do technical strategy, we don't just, draw up a vision and that's it. We also draw up, so how do we actually get from where you are right now to what you want to achieve maybe 3 years ahead with an executable plan. And so when can you actually start innovating? When can you start utilizing the different parts of the platform that is being created as well? So that was part of the delivery that we made there, creating the vision, creating a long-term roadmap, but also, focusing on consolidating the tech stacks that they had.
Very nice, very nice. Mikkel, we're just 2 final questions, but when is it that you say no to? I mean, I'm interested in, because I'm going to try to be not careful, but think about the question I want to ask you.
Yeah.
Customers, they might have great ideas or great ambitions, and sometimes you probably have to say no, or those are possible, but we're still not ready.
Yeah.
What are the typical, let's say, mistakes that you see in a company? We're not mentioning names, not in regards to the ambition, but what are the typical mistakes that you see, large brands making when it comes to their digital commerce or digital transformation process? Is it, I've worked in several platforms, and I know that these guys, they oversell sometimes, and it's like creating a Lego, right? So you have to, as you're saying, you have maybe to design things before, or I like the Canva strategizer, like you put things on a Canva and post-its, and then you have a visual kind of mood board before executing. So because then you can avoid a lot of time wasted. And so tell me a little bit about the common mistakes that you see in large organizations,
Yes. So I think, I don't know if I would call them mistakes, but at least, what we see with at least some of our customers is that so there's an organizational aspect here, right? It's when you're talking about the going a new direction, even though it might just be a new system, a new platform, there's always going to be some, transformation, organizational transformation there. And I think, the focus just when selecting new platforms or even going a completely new route with Composable, for instance, that requires that you have a lot of focus on the business or the people that have to work with the setup, that have to be able to make the day-to-day operations of the entire solution that you have. Let's just take so when we're talking headless, right? Let's just take something like e-commerce management. So if you create a completely headless setup, you have fragmented platforms where you do content, you have something with commerce as well. As an e-commerce manager, where do you actually, set up your shop? Where do you do your day-to-day work there, right? So what we see is that at least there's not always the focus on the organization, the people within the organization who have to work with the platforms and the solutions, and also the changes or the modification that a new setup would have on the business processes as well. So I think that is that is what we typically see, but I mean that completely depends on the maturity of the customer that we have. Mm-hmm. So for instance, when we just look at first or second generation customers that first or second generation e-commerce clients that they still lack, or at least sometimes lack the organization behind it. So they haven't completely decided where's e-commerce actually rooted within our organization. Where does it control? Is it sales, marketing? Where do we have that? But also the different business disciplines that you need to master. So you need to be able to have an e-commerce manager. You need to be able to be professional in your product enrichment, because that's key to selling the products in the end. And then you have your content management as well, which might be a new discipline within your organization. So for them, I think that is more the different, building up the organization around it. And I think if we look at a third or fourth gen, that would more be like maybe they also had to do some changes within their organization, because they might move, like I said, when going headless, that will have an impact on the organization. So they will have to adjust some of their business processes there as well. But they just have this, typically when you go to third or fourth gen, they just have this. So they've been burned sometimes, having to build from scratch for the third or fourth time. Yeah. Then, they want to have something more lasting, but it will have an impact on the people working with it within the organization. So there is how should we put it, an organizational transition or transformation when we look at even creating the first gen, but also moving into a more complex or separate world of Composable.
Nice. And I'll leave it for another moment, that question. Composable, you spoke about D2C, personalization, so direct to consumer, composability, personalization, and CDPs. And just my final question: what do you see in terms of future of commerce moving forward, like from 2022 to 20 whatever? What's your take on it? What's really important for brands, for companies, manufacturers, brands, to start looking at and to prepare really?
Yeah, so definitely, looking into composability, like you said, and I think again, personalization, because we've been talking about that for several years now, but now we actually have the means with both the customer data platform, but also the coming of the personalization engines, right? So that's a more modern take on both, having the different recommendations that you need in order to create a personalized experience, but also with the search experience as well. So we see with the coming of these platforms, we're actually able to create this hyper-personalized or personalized setup, at least, that we've been talking about for several years now. So I think that is something that is going to continue growing, and also, that's going to be mainstream at some point. But right now, that's something that we see the coming of as well. Then we have actually something we haven't discussed, but so we see that's more like in a development approach when you're actually creating solutions. So we see that a lot of customers and a lot of the solutions that's been created focus on adding more features. You just build on top and you just add more features, but you don't actually see the value of them. So you don't measure what is the value of the new feature that I created. You just continue bringing out new features. So what we actually try to put in also for the new implementations that we have is a more, I should say, value-focused approach that you can have with something like full stack split testing. So actually, in order to work with that, you need to be able to define what is that I actually want to achieve with this feature, right? And then you have to measure, is it a success or not? And then you can create solution based on the value that's actually been added to it instead of just adding new features. So that is something as well, right? So I think these three things, at least for the coming year, year or two, right? That is something that we're going to see more of.
Brilliant. So that was Mikkel. Mikkel, thanks very much.
You,
no, absolutely. If people want to know more about Vertica or yourself, what's the best way?
I think so. Yeah, they can just reach out to me or just go to our website.
All right. Perfect.
I think
maybe LinkedIn, right?
Yeah, maybe LinkedIn. Yeah. Just reach out. I'm happy to talk about both composability and creating the right technical foundation, because that's just something that's really on my mind.
That's nice. Thank you very much, Mikkel.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.